Hey, what's going on? It's Kevin here, and I'm in a pretty good mood today, so what I wanted to do was record a video on how to get over a broken heart. Now, first of all, if you're going through a breakup right now, then you know that this is a horrible place to be. Your relationship is over, you feel heartbroken, and it's really hard to move on. But what I want to do is I want to share 5 tips that'll make it much easier for you to not only get over your ex, but also let go of the relationship and put it in the past so that you can finally move on with your life and be happy again. So, tip number 1, remember that healing a broken heart is a process. It's a painful process at that. And getting angry, frustrated, disappointed, confused, lost, down, depressed, that is all part of the process, and it's completely normal. If you feel this wide range of emotions, understand that it's going to be like that for, a couple weeks, a couple months. I mean, it shouldn't be a couple months. Maybe, the first week is supposed to be, the hardest it'll get. But if it lasts beyond that month or 2, then, there's some work to do. But the thing is, you have to work through these things, and you have to acknowledge them and give yourself the permission to feel them and experience them, But when you're feeling them, trust that it'll work out and it'll pass, even though it feels really hard to get over it right now. Like I said, it's part of a process. And if you keep that in mind, it'll give you some reassurance in the midst of the really hard times that often follow after a breakup. So, the second tip that I have is to realize that not all relationships are meant to last. Most relationships end, and the majority of the people who date are bound to break up. It may sound really negative or cynical, but that's just kind of the reality of life, Most relationships don't work out, If you look around you and the divorce rate and everything, it's just, it is what it is. Not everyone you date is meant to be the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So accept this as part of the process. You date around, you learn things about one another, you get to know the person, you get to know yourself and what you want, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. After a certain amount of time, you realize that you guys weren't nearly as compatible as you thought you were. And it's really easy to think that you're much more compatible than you really are in the beginning, when everything's really good and happy and you guys are intoxicated and in love. But after a while, the truth surfaces, and sometimes that truth is not pretty. And sometimes following the truth hurts, but it's part of the dating game, and it's just how things work. So instead of writing it off as like a failed relationship, don't do that. It's a life lesson. There's things you took away from this relationship and learned. And that actually leads me into the third tip for how to get over a broken heart, and that's to reflect on the relationship and learn from it. As I mentioned earlier, the more we date, the more we learn about ourselves and what we want, as well as, our partners and how we interact and what effect certain people have on us and what we really need to either compliment us or to draw something out of us. And it's a beautiful process, really. It makes you that much more intelligent when you go back out there in the future and begin to look for someone else. So it's really important to stop and kind of take an inventory about what just happened, what you could learn from it, and how to move forward even more intelligently. Because if you don't do this, if you just write off your ex as a bitch or an asshole and get all bitter and cynical, you're gonna miss out on what this relationship had to teach you. So even if the relationship wasn't a success in the most traditional sense, in the fact that it led to a successful, happy marriage that led happily ever after, you have to realize it was still a success in certain ways. Maybe not in the most traditional form, but it still succeeded in teaching you something. And it's important to realize what that something is so that, once again, you can move forward even better. And there's a great quote that I came across once that said, "Things don't go wrong and break your heart so that you can become bitter and give up. They happen to break you down and build you up so that you can become all that you were intended to be." That's by Charles Jones. So what I always recommend is that to use this experience as an opportunity to become the person you deserve to be. And those are the words that one of my best friends said to me several years ago. And they totally transformed how I went about the breakup after that. So it's important to realize that you were probably tolerating things that you shouldn't have been tolerating in your relationship, and now you don't have to tolerate it anymore. Focus on what you deserve and getting it. It's like now you have this fresh bundle of clay, and you're free to create whatever you want from it, and it's a wonderful feeling. And that actually leads to the fourth tip, which is to rediscover who you really are without this relationship. See, relationships have a really interesting way of affecting us in a very, very deep level, especially when we love someone. It brings out all this stuff that we normally don't even experience. It makes us more emotional than we normally are. It makes us more affected by little things that we normally wouldn't be affected by. And sometimes we can get so wrapped up in another person, in the relationship, that it actually makes us lose touch with ourselves. And it makes us forget who we are, what we really value, what our priorities are. And, it happens a lot, especially if it's your first love. But even in later relationships, it can be really tempting to start putting your partner ahead of your own life or little things, to compromise, because it feels like, someone has to make the effort. And if your partner doesn't do it, then you do it. And then, sometimes this process can become really out of balance, and then you just totally lose touch with yourself. So use this as a time to get back in touch with yourself, to really rediscover who you really are and what's important to you. Think about what you really wanted to do that you didn't have the time for because, you had to spend time with your ex, or you had to do this and that. And now you do, you have the freedom to explore whatever you want. And this conveniently leads us into the fifth tip, which is to use this time to create the life of your dreams. Once you actually start working towards your dreams and doing the things you love and being happy again, you're probably going to realize how much time you wasted being in a codependent relationship that really didn't serve you. It's like you may have been waiting for approval, or you wanted them to make you feel good, and you were investing all this time and energy to, make things work, to keep the peace, to make things, run smoothly so you can be happy and so they can be happy. And in the process, you lose touch with yourself and the things that fulfill you from within. And now that that's out of your life, you can truly become fulfilled from within, so that no matter what happens, you're happy. You're okay with yourself and you feel good. And someone entering your life or someone leaving your life doesn't just knock you completely off course. Sure, someone that comes in that adds to your life, makes it more rich and meaningful and enjoyable, that's a good addition. But if they leave, obviously it might hurt a little bit, but you're not going to be like tanked and like knocked over and off balance and depressed and sad and lonely and all that stuff. A little bit of it is normal, but it's not going to carry on for months at a time. So my advice is to find what truly makes you happy and do those things. Start fresh. Approach your life with like a totally new piece of clay that is yours to mold. And if you view it from this perspective, then it's a great opportunity, and it totally reframes what would otherwise be a really sad or devastating situation into a positive opportunity. And it's really all about your mindset. I'm not saying that, the pain isn't real and to ignore it, but, after a while, it's important to start thinking and embodying a positive attitude, like the tips that I shared later in this video. So hopefully that's been helpful. I was just in a really good mood today. Wanted to share some great tips that I think can really help you. So if you like this video, hit the like button below, leave me a comment on the video, on the blog, do whatever you got to do. I'd really appreciate any love and support, any kind of comments you have. I love hearing how this stuff impacts you. And if you want more advice on how to get over a breakup, I recommend going to my website at www.howtogetoverarelationship.com. And on that site, you can actually get a free chapter from a book I wrote called The Ultimate Guide on How to Get Over a Breakup. If you're watching this video on my site, then obviously, you're already there. And you may have even downloaded it already. So, yeah, I hope this has been helpful, and it's my pleasure to serve you once again, and I hope you have a great day, okay? Take care.